Hello, Liverpool fans. Welcome to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. Coach Ralph and I are excited to bring you this podcast. From games to players to club news, we cover everything LFC. You can find us on every platform and YouTube. Please take a second to follow or subscribe to the podcast. That way, you know when the latest podcast is up. Thank you for listening, and now on to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Coach Ralph, and I am your other co-host, Salim. Coach Ralph, good morning. How are you this morning?
Doing fine, Salim. I'm going to enjoy Liverpool at the top of the league for as long as I can, and hopefully it'll be for a long time.
Yeah, hopefully. Pretty good performance against Chelsea. 2-1 was the score. We had a goal in the 29th minute by Mo Salah. Curtis Jones gets fouled in the box. In the 48th minute, Mr. Nicholas Jackson, now who's decided to score goals, got put through by Moises Caicedo and scores a pretty nice goal. And then in the 51st minute, the new father again, Curtis Jones, assisted by a really nice cross from Mo Salah, and the game was done from a standpoint of goals. What's your overall reaction to the game?
I think it was an interesting game. I think Slot surprised us with his tactics a little bit. As I was with my own team's coaching that day, I listened to most of the game on the radio, just the audio. So it was clear Chelsea had a lot of possession. And having watched the game on TV since I've come back, it appears that Slot consciously let them have the ball and let them get to certain parts of the field before looking to counter. So I thought that was an interesting tactic by the manager.
Yeah, almost 58% possession. It did look intentional, but they did look dangerous on the counter. There was a couple counters. Specifically the one where Darwin Núñez put in Dominic, Darwin put in Dominic Szoboszlai through. Actually, that might have been the first half, pardon me. And he just muffed the shot. Right. He scored 2 goals during the international break, and he played well for Hungary. So I was expecting a little bit more of a shot, but the game was very very weird. It wasn't a Liverpool type of game at Anfield. Coach, why do you think that Slot specifically kind of said, okay, they can have the ball, we'll win the game? Because normally when you're at home, big teams usually take the lion's share of possession.
Yeah, I think you'd have to talk to him about that one. I mean, I think that Maresca's one of those coaches that he's going to play his way and building from the back and all of that. So I think, well, certainly if Klopp was still in charge, I mean, he would certainly give him the full press. So there might be a few different things going on here, and I think one of them might be that the manager is thinking, okay, we've got 3 big games in a week. We've got Chelsea, then we go to Leipzig, who are joint top of the Bundesliga, and then we have to travel down to Arsenal, who, after dropping some points, are clearly going to be, pun intended, gunning them. So gunning for them.
Right.
So I think that might be a factor here. Maybe more of a low-pressure type approach. Plus, he knows that Liverpool have the kind of players that they can counter.
Right.
So he's kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah. Interesting lineup. The South American boys were given a break from their travels. Do you think this is a lesson he learned from the Nottingham Forest game? That
yes.
Yeah, for sure.
I I think that one kind of clicked instantly after the Forest game. So I think it's a very logical thing to do. And I think that once Alisson is recovered from his injury, I think he might be the exception. But I think the other lads, I think that they will all be on the bench when they return from their travels.
Yeah, they still got some minutes. Luis Diaz got about 20 minutes. Darwin got a lot more minutes than expected because of not Cody Gakpo, Jota's injury, and then McAllister even got some minutes in. So it was good to see that they got in there as well. Now, Coach, one of the talking points was in the 6th minute. Jota gets taken down. He's ahead of I think it was Colville.
Tosin.
Pardon me. Yeah, Tosin. Yeah, and he gets taken down. On Saturday, the day before, Saliba does the same thing, maybe a little bit more egregious, and he gets a red card. So Tosin only gets the yellow card. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I did watch the Arsenal game on Saturday, and it's a rule that I'm not entirely comfortable with, denying a goal-scoring opportunity, because sometimes you get situations where somebody makes a genuine attempt to play the ball and it becomes a foul to the last man and then they get red carded. So I think there has to be a judgment on whether or not it's intentional. Now, I think the debate about both these decisions was that the players were a long way from goal. So are they truly denying a goal-scoring opportunity?
Right.
And so I'm not quite sure what the right answer is for that, or if there is a right answer. But really, if the Saliba incident is a red card, I think it behooves the referees, VAR, and on the field in the Premier League, that they've got to be consistent. So I suppose it would be a red card.
Yeah.
And I think it becomes more of an issue if the result goes against Liverpool. But I think there are problems with refereeing. It's not just VAR. I think it's beyond that. And I mean, because there were so many incidents this weekend, I think VAR has been relatively quiet compared to previous years. But there was a lot happened this weekend. There was a lot. And as I think that we said last season, I think VAR has analysed things to the nth degree.
Mm-hmm.
And it really doesn't help. It really doesn't help because all that happens is that there appear to be inconsistencies all over the place.
Yeah, and that's what's frustrating about this, about this league, and probably leagues across Europe too. That inconsistency. It just, you see it happen in the day before, and then it's something different. What does VAR or just like the refs in general have to do? Is it what's missing there? Why does this keep happening? Why isn't this resolved? Why isn't this like a standard operating procedure kind of put in place? Like,
yeah, look, it beats me basically. I mean, coming back, and we've talked about this before, why did they bring in VAR? I think VAR was brought in for the situation where the ball hits the side netting and then the referee gives a goal, something that's really blatantly obvious.
Right.
And unfortunately, VAR has taken on a much bigger role than that, whereas it's making a lot of calls. And you're saying, well, are you trying to referee the game to perfection, or are we just going to let the game flow? And if there's something really blatantly obvious, for example, one that we talked about before was the year when the goal line technology didn't work in the Aston Villa Sheffield United game, and everybody could see that the ball was in, but VAR didn't intervene. Now that's a situation where they should have intervened.
Right.
Whereas you were still getting situations. I mean, look, the goal that was called back from Gakpo. So you can look at it and say, I mean, Salah is offside. You know, he's not a million miles offside.
Right.
But you can see he's offside. So is that a clear and obvious error? If he was maybe 2 yards beyond that, I would say yes. But if it's a Herline decision, I would say no. But look, I think we are starting to fall into the trap of overanalyzing the game. And I don't think it's ever going to change now. And I don't see how you can improve it. I think the only change that I would make is I would like to see not the referees who are on the field manning VAR. I would prefer to see other people, preferably former players.
Yeah. The VAR came in handy for the goal that Jackson scored. I mean, and that was millimeters too. That was so right. Close too. And right, I thought they were supposed to, let the play kind of go on really close calls like they did on the Gakpo goal. I don't know. I'm just there's got to be a better way to do it. Anyway, let's get to the game. The game was a very interesting. The 2-1 score line. I mean, Gakpo's goal gets wiped out. The stats were interesting. We mentioned the possession, but also the shots on goal. So Liverpool had 5 shots on goal out of 9, and Chelsea had 2 shots on goal out of 12. One being the goal from Nicholas Jackson, and the other one like a cross that went to Madueke, who kind of got his foot on it, but didn't really threaten the goal. So 2 shots on goal. They didn't necessarily look very threatening. And now I'm hearing like that, which I've never heard this before. We've heard of the low block, but now this is like the mid block, which is kind of what happened there. And it was a good game, but kind of boring at the same time. It wasn't like, I was on my feet. I always watch. I can't sit down watching these games. I'm always standing and I'm celebrating. But Curtis Jones had a really good game, Coach. He really played well, and him being, I believe he just had a child, didn't he? That's why he left England.
Yeah.
So Papa comes in and gets an assist and scores a goal.
Yeah.
Overall, his performance was good. Anything that you that kind of stood out to you? Because we've talked about him kind of holding onto the ball a little bit too long. Even on his goal, I thought the chance was gone, but he got to it. What are your thoughts on his performance?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people have identified him as man of the match, and I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that he was involved in all the major incidents in terms of attack. It seems that he was given the job of keeping an eye on Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
And Cole Palmer obviously is the key player for Chelsea. And in fact, the only really good chances that they had apart from the goal, both fell to Palmer. Otherwise, he was pretty quiet. There was the shot in the first half that was just over the bar. It was towards the end of the half.
Yeah.
But then the other one was when he looked like it fell to him very close to the goal, and he was blocked. And who was the man that blocked him? It was Curtis Jones. So that was a pretty big play, as they say in this country, by Jones.
Yeah.
And I think it was significant because if Palmer had scored at that point, Chelsea had been playing pretty well. They'd made a good start to the game, and that would have given them huge confidence.
Yeah. Not to get back to the refereeing, but there was a lot of shoulder charges that were deemed fouls. And, Coach, my understanding of the shoulder charge is that you can go shoulder to shoulder as long as you don't kind of elevate your arm and kind of push through. But for some reason, a lot of these shoulder charges were not called fouls. There's kind of a sentiment out there saying that I know I said I'd get off the refs, but I can't right now. So the sentiment that maybe the ref wanted to not be intimidated by Anfield, because that's at one point Anfield really started getting rocking, and I think Chelsea kind of felt the stadium on top of them, and the ref kind of felt it too, and it was almost like he was trying to prove a point, like you're not going to intimidate me, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you think about that? The shoulder charges, and is it the coach? Is it the ref just trying to not be intimidated, or is he just? I don't know. It just felt like he wanted to be the star of the game.
Yeah, look. It could be anything, Salim. It could be anything. Didn't think it was a particularly dirty game or anything like that. He was just a bit picky, maybe.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, when you get situations like that, it kind of breaks the flow of the game. But I think there's been a lot of discussion about Anfield recently within the Liverpool core, as it were, saying that it's not always as noisy as it can be. And then outside of it, people saying, well, it's one of those places where the home crowd guarantees decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been a lot of debate on both sides of the coin over that. So could be, that he doesn't want to get too intimidated by the crowd. But again, as with why did Arne Slot change his tactics? I think you'd have to talk to the ref.
Yeah, speaking of Arne Slot, he showed some emotion on the sideline. He was really fired up about some of these calls, and it was nice to see that he has that gear in him, like to back his players and to really show some emotion. He even had to be held back by another coach, because he was when the game was over, he was going right to the ref, and they had to be held back.
So yeah, there were clearly some decisions that he didn't agree with, and whether he's right or wrong, I think you're right. He certainly got invested in it, and that does have an effect on the stadium. It does have an effect on the crowd. So yeah, he does have that gear in him, and he kind of looks intense. It's just that it's very different from his predecessor.
Yeah. Well, as far as the game, anything else that kind of stood out to you? I know you said you listened to it, but listening to it and watching it are two different things. Is there anything that kind of caught your attention while listening to it that maybe visually it wouldn't be, or maybe when you watch the highlights visually that it didn't kind of compare, or it did compare? Anything that kind of was different from listening to the game? I guess you're at the mercy of the commentators at that point in time.
Yes. Tough to say. As I say, I listened to most of the game, and it was clear that Chelsea had possession. But I think that when you see it visually, you kind of see, well, obviously there's a whole different dimension then, because they can be possessing the ball, but they're not in dangerous areas.
Right.
And I think that was the case quite a lot of the time, where Liverpool concede parts of the field to them and they can knock it about, but they're not really going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, Arsenal loses William Saliba on a red card. A gift for us, really, because him and Gabriel are a great partnership. As we look forward to the Arsenal game, and we'll get to the Leipzig game, but what a big stroke of luck.
Maybe, but I think even though Saliba is a key player for them, I think Arsenal are set up to be tough to break down anyway.
Yeah.
So will he bring in the Polish player Kiwor? Is that how it's pronounced, Kiwor?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, because he looked a bit shaky. He may well use Calafiori.
Yeah.
He's also... Timber, I believe, is injured right now, but I don't know how serious the injury is.
Yeah.
So I think he has alternatives, and he has quality alternatives.
Yeah.
So what might be interesting is, will Arsenal really take the game to Liverpool? I think the pros from his point of view are that can really get the crowd behind the team.
Mm-hmm.
Or does he play like he did against Manchester City, make it cagey? And if Slot comes into the game and plays like he did yesterday, it could be different from some of the games in recent years, a bit more low-key.
Yeah.
Tense, more of a chess game type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So how they adapt because of Saliba, I don't know. As I say, do they get the crowd up or do they sit back?
So Arsenal loses 2-0. Bournemouth, after the red card, were just deserved to win. They played well. Saka not being there, there's possibly a hamstring. I mean, is there a better time to face Arsenal? Probably not, huh?
Well, you can look at it both ways. Maybe it's the worst time to face Arsenal because, unfortunately, the Manchester City era means that people are already talking about, well, they're out of the championship race, which is totally ludicrous.
Yeah.
So early in the season.
Yeah.
But it feels that way because of what Manchester City have done in recent years, and you can't really drop points anymore. So, maybe it's do or die for Arsenal all of a sudden, whereas if they hadn't have dropped points in the games where they've gone down to 10 men, it might be more, okay, it's more of an open situation like it was when Liverpool went down there last season.
Yeah. The commentators are saying, or asked Arteta, so when you've had 11 men on the field, you've won every game. When you haven't, you haven't. It's like such a silly kind of comment. Of course, it's going to be harder with 10 men.
Well, but, I suppose factually it's correct. So.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So Leipzig and Arsenal now are almost desperate to get points, right? Leipzig hasn't won a game in the Champions League, and they need one bad. And then Arsenal. What do you think this is going to show us from our squad, and what it's going to mean to really get into two games that the other team is almost not a must-win, but are desperate to win?
I think it'll be fascinating to see the rotation that the manager makes to deal with these games. Of course, as well as the tactics, I would expect Leipzig to come at Liverpool. So that might be made for counter-attacking. I expect Diaz to come back into the team. I expect McAllister to come back in the team. I'm wondering if he might rest Szoboszlai for that.
Yeah.
And continue with Curtis Jones. So I think that's one thing that's going to be worth noting as to how he rotates. And obviously he has to carry that through to the Arsenal game. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays the same team, though, in both Leipzig and Arsenal. Who do Liverpool play after Arsenal? I can't remember.
After Arsenal is Brighton in the
League Cup.
Yep, and then Brighton again in the league. Yeah.
Right. So what I think he might do is he might field the same team against Arsenal and Leipzig. He's going to rotate against Brighton in the League Cup. I think he's going to make major changes for that game.
Yeah.
And he's going to clearly start prioritizing now, I would think, because how much did he rotate against West Ham? I can't remember now.
It was a pretty big rotation.
Yeah. So the priorities are clear already for Arne Slot. So he's going to play the bench basically against Brighton away.
Okay, so we have a Jota injury possibility. So is Darwin now having to perform? Because I mean, the work rate's high, but he didn't get a shot on goal. He didn't look necessarily threatening. The big kind of Darwin moments were his battle with, I can't pronounce the guy's name, Badashivli, whatever that guy's name is, I can't pronounce it. He got into like a little tussle with him. They were fouling each other. He gets the yellow card. So that was kind of like Darwin's cameo, not cameo, but what appeared to be like his signature moment in the game. Coach, we've seen Darwin perform. What is it going to take to include him and get him going now that Jota's hurt? It could be just minor, because he did play for another, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes before he got subbed out.
Right. So I think I saw him quoted that he expects Jota to miss the next 2 games. Is that correct?
It might be. I didn't see that quote. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what the injury is going to be at this point. These are games that might suit Núñez because Liverpool's on the road, and if they're going to counter, obviously he has some of the characteristics of being a good player to have in a counter-attacking team. Whether or not he plays, I think, will be the key thing, because we're going to see whether or not or how much the manager rates him now.
Yeah.
Because maybe there are other options. Maybe he goes for a front line of Diaz, Gakpo, and Mo Salah. So these are all things that are going to reveal a lot of Arne Slot's thoughts and philosophies, particularly around Darwin Núñez.
Robertson looked a little bit slower than he used to, as did Mo. But Mo is still producing. I mean, he got the penalty kick, but the pass to Jones was excellent. And in key moments, we know Mo will be there. With Robertson slowing down just a little bit, I wouldn't say like he looked, awful or anything, but I think the years under Klopp and the running and being in the World Cup and Scotland, and he's had a lot of games and his legs look a little bit tired, and he's kind of getting up there a little bit in age. I'd mentioned prior to the season that I really liked Alfie Doughty as potentially being brought over to the team to deputize him and maybe moving on from Tsimikas. Is it maybe time for Tsimikas to get a run of games and let Robertson kind of rest a little bit, or do we just kind of roll with it and see what we got?
Well, I think that's another thing that we might see this week, because didn't he play Tsimikas against Milan?
I think so, yeah. So
that suggests to me that the manager's thoughts might be along that lines. I feel that when it comes down to the really big game, that he's always going to pick Robertson because he's a great left back. But maybe he does need the extra time, because he had quite an injury hit season last year, and prior to that he hasn't really had injuries. So he had a couple of significant injuries, and as you say, he's getting older. So, yeah, I think it makes sense to play Tsimikas. Now, I know Tsimikas isn't necessarily popular with all of the Liverpool fan base, but I don't think Arne Slot at this point is going to be looking at it that way. I think he's going to be looking at it in the sense of, okay, I need to rotate to some degree. And if in the case of Andy Robertson, he feels that his legs need a rest, then he's got to do that. His only other option is obviously to play Joe Gomez. And I thought it was significant he brought Gomez on towards the end of the game on Sunday, because clearly Chelsea is strong in the wide areas. And I thought early on Sunday that they put Madueke up against Andy Robertson. I think that was a conscious tactic.
Yeah.
And he had a little bit of success. And then as the game went along, the situation kind of steadied.
Yep.
So that is a potential rotation, I think, for Leipzig.
Yeah. Do we have a striker problem, Coach? Is Jota and Darwin the answer moving forward, or are we going to be in the market for them in January or potentially in the summer?
Well, I think the answer to that question is the same for all positions.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, whether it was an agreed situation not to really bring in players yet because there was a strong squad in place.
Mm-hmm.
I think Arne Slot has obviously got a tune out of the group, and they seem to be behind him. And I think he's at the stage now where he's looking at what he has, and he's thinking, right, what do I need? What kind of players do I need to move the squad on from where he wants it to be?
Yeah.
So whether that's up front, so whether players like Darwin Núñez, like Endo, maybe like a Robertson or a Tsimikas, what kind of players is he wanting to bring in to maybe play in positions like that? So I think there's very much a process of evaluation here.
Not only that, with the contracts too of Mo and Trent and Virgil, I mean, it could be a big transformation of the team here.
Right. So he's not involved in that. He's not involved in that side of it. And but I'm sure that it has to be crossing his mind. I mean, like he'll be on the inside and he will know what we don't know, which is the way that things are moving. So if they're moving and the players are leaving the club, then he has to be thinking, right, what do I need? You know, if Salah goes, what do I need if Alexander-Arnold goes? Was Bradley on the bench, by the way? I didn't notice that at the weekend.
Here, I'll take a quick look. I don't remember seeing him sitting here. Bradley was not on the bench. Tyler Morton, Kwanzaa, Endo, Tsimikas, Jaros, and then McAllister, Luis Diaz, Joe Gomez.
Yeah, I thought he wasn't on the bench. So, again, I don't know if there's significance in that.
Yeah.
Bradley's a very good player. Could he have picked up a knock playing for Northern Ireland because he played 2 games? I don't know about that. But he's a very different style. He's a very different style to Trent. So how does he rate him? We don't know. We don't know because I think we'd have to go through a season and just see how all the cards fall into place. I mean, sometimes you could take a Bradley, for example. Maybe Bradley doesn't play at all this year, and it's because Trent plays well. And then Trent moves on, for example.
Right.
So will he be prepared to bring Bradley in? Or maybe Trent picks up an injury and then he feels that he has to put Bradley in.
Yeah.
And how effective is Bradley? So these are all question mark issues for the manager, really.
I'm wondering if maybe because he had 2 games in the international break, that maybe he gave him a rest because he wants him for Leipzig and Arsenal. And that's why maybe Joe Gomez came in for Trent.
Right. But, I mean, I kind of get the feeling that maybe he picked Mawson over Bradley for the squad.
Yeah.
So, again, was that a conscious decision? Picking a defensive midfielder over a right back?
Yeah. And Joe Gomez being very versatile, he could anybody that needed a break, he could put.
I mean, look, you're going into a situation against Arsenal where like Chelsea, they have strength in the wide areas.
Yeah.
So I think Gomez coming in on either side is sensible from a tactical point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the other side of it is if you're bringing in Bradley, you're bringing in a player who, if Liverpool are looking to break fast, like Robertson is capable of on the other side, he can really get forward and he can get behind defences.
Yeah.
Because as we all know, Salah gets the ball and he likes to go inside. That vacates the space. And if you've got the fullback coming up, then you can cause opponents problems.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. I mean, I can't help but just keep an eye on the future and maybe just a little bit further down the line. And as players kind of, ebb and flow, and with the contracts and new coach, I mean, there's a lot of spinning plates here. And it's interesting just to kind of look at them and see what's what and what might happen. One last thing before we talk about something else. The Zubamendi deal that didn't go through. Now there's talks that Manchester City's interested in him, and maybe United or Arsenal as well. Probably the big teams are all interested in him. He's a good player. But when I heard of the City thing, I was thinking to myself, why would he want to go there? Because as soon as Rodri's back, it's going to be like a Spain situation for him. He's going to be second fiddle to Rodri. Or maybe, I don't know, Pep sees him as the replacement for Rodri and sees it sooner than later. I don't know exactly how old Rodri is, but I think he's a little bit older than Zubamendi, and Zubamendi's 25 or 26. So, interesting to see what will happen there. Coach, is there any other player that maybe you've seen watching football this year that might suit Liverpool well? There's some talk about Wharton from Crystal Palace, and the numbers are pretty crazy. I don't like that personally, but like an Eze, would he be a nice addition to the team? Is there anybody else, Semenyo, anybody that you see that might be a nice fit for Liverpool?
Well, I think Semenyo is a player that's caught my eye, and I did watch the West Ham game as well, by the weekend. I would say either Kudus or Bowen, but Kudus obviously can get emotional to a point that it's to the detriment of his team.
Yeah.
But he looks like a very raw talent to me. So I think those three players, Bowen might be a glamorous choice for some, but there's just something about him that I like.
Yeah.
And he's a real team player as well. And I think that you need some of those. And he's got some pace. He can score and he can assist. So, for example, would he be an adequate replacement for Salah? Probably not in terms of goals, but in terms of the team. As long as you've got other players who are weighing in, I think he'd be a good choice.
Yeah. I'm surprised that those players in this current age of wanting to move on, that you got to tip your cap to Bowen for, staying committed to West Ham, and being a team that's kind of middle of the pack. And, for a player of his quality. Kudus, I don't know what happened. I think he was just fed up. I think because Kudus that's not like his MO to just snap like that. But he had two people in the face, and the fact that he got a yellow card right there, I was like, wait a second. I'm pretty sure when you hit somebody in the face, you get ejected, and then that's when VAR kind of jumped in. All right. Yeah. Coach, fantasy. Interesting results this week.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, so a lot of the big players blanked. Palmer, obviously Haaland's blanked 3 times in a row. I thought for sure against Wolves that he would have a good game. He was very absent. I don't even think he got a shot on goal. He just looked like, I don't know. He just couldn't get the ball. It was strange. And the fact that God damn it, John Stones scores at the end. And I thought it was going to be a glorious weekend with Arsenal losing and excuse me, and City drawing. But anyway, so with a lot of players blanking, scores were very low this week. I had 35. And you had 33. The highest, let me go back to it, I think was 40 in our league. 45. That's a low score, generally speaking, a low scoring week in general.
What was the average this week?
The average was, I think, 32.
Oh, wow. So yeah, it's because all the big guns aren't. Well, apart from what did Salah get this week?
Salah had 12. A goal and assist.
So yeah. If you had him as captain, then obviously those. I mean, I have him in the team, but of course I've been going with Haaland, and as I think many have, and it doesn't seem to be working all of a sudden.
Yeah, I was a couple weeks ago. I was kind of thinking of moving off of Salah, just to kind of get some more players. In the mid-level tier as far as pricing goes. But now, like 3 in a row, I'm really, really debating moving off of Haaland. The problem is he's got Southampton next, and it's just like, you move on from some of these players, and then all of a sudden they, bang. And my 35 points included Saliba's red card, -3, so it could have been a little bit better, and I do have Wood going tonight, so we'll see what happens. If you guys want to join our league, the code is CHPX42. It's our mini league. We have 16 players in. Would love to have you join it. It's a lot of fun, and we get to test our fantasy soccer knowledge. Coach, top of the league, mid-October. Overall perspective of the team's performances and Slot's performance, it's got to be pretty positive. I mean, top of the league, pretty good.
Oh gosh, look, I don't think anybody can complain. I think that what I'm concerned about is clearly they just started this tough run of games where there's so many back to back.
Yeah.
And they start slipping off, and then everybody starts getting nostalgic for Jurgen Klopp and that style of play. I mean, I have to admit that that I kind of miss the high intensity.
Yeah,
that I miss that. But I think the realization is really who else played like that? Nobody. And if I think of Liverpool over the years that I followed them, and they've had some very good teams, and they've always played with pretty much an attacking, attractive style. I think the Jurgen Klopp style was totally different than anything I've seen. And I don't think we'll ever see that again, to be truthful. But anyway, Slot has done well, and if they do slip up, I just hope the fans stay with him. Because I think the next phase is going to be, as I kind of indicated earlier, he's evaluating his squad, and now he's going to say, right, where do I need players to kind of take my style, a little bit further beyond where it is right now.
Yeah, the more I think about it, I think next year will be the really tell-all of what happens, and the next couple of years even, as he kind of adds, like you said, the players that he wants to add, and as players naturally leave and get sold and all that stuff. So, well, Coach, thanks again for your insight. We've had interesting start to the tough run of games, but a W, which is always important. A result is important. And Leipzig next, Arsenal after that, and that's when we will be talking about both those games next week. Everybody, bear with us as we are going to be launching our videos live probably next week or the week after. They will be on YouTube and Facebook. And just bear with us as we kind of get our bearings on how to do it and do it properly. So Thanks again, Coach, and thank you, everybody. Liverpool top of the table, mid-October. Let's go. Liverpool fans, thank you so much for listening to the Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show and would greatly appreciate your support. Please leave a 5-star review and feel free to email us at tlrlfcpodcast@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing from you. Till next time.